Some people say that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fans will buy almost anything. And it's kind of true. I have a shredder cheese grater, I have a Raphael pizza cutter, and I have this igloo cooler party wagon that I never use because I don't want to mess it up. I love TMNT action figures, but back in the day, even though we had all of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action figures, there were so many other Ninja Turtle products that we loved and grew up with. So on this list, I'm going to go over 35 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle products that weren't action figures, but we remember them just the same. 35 is a big list. There's things that I had to cut off this list, so of course I'm gonna miss some. I thought about putting on, but we'd be here all day. So maybe there'll be a part 2, even a part 3 of this episode, but we're gonna get right into it. So let's kick this off with the edible stuff, the food. There was so much Ninja Turtle food back in the day. I don't remember half of it, but obviously they're pretty ingrained in pop culture now. And one of the first items I'm going to talk about are the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pies. These were cream-filled cakes that were covered in green icing. They had vanilla pudding on the inside. And although I didn't have these specific cakes as a kid, I can just imagine what they tasted like. I loved any kind of Little Debbie or Hostess cake, so I'm sure I would have loved these no matter how gross they looked. One of the cool things is there's a company called Nutty Nostalgic that actually made a spread that is supposed to emulate that taste or that nostalgic feeling of the Ninja Turtle pies. I stopped myself from buying it because I really don't need that kind of food, but it looks pretty cool, so maybe if it goes back on sale, I'll pick it up, but a lot of people remember those pies. And we can't talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle food without talking about Chef Boyardee's soup. One of the grossest things is seeing someone actually open one of these cans of soup however many years later and it just comes out as this dry heap of grossness. I do remember there was a mail away for a black Super Shredder. NECA did an homage to the black Super Shredder when they released it again in that black kind of deco. So pretty cool part of TMNT history. One of the most iconic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle food items, of course, was the cereal. I don't remember eating the cereal, but we must have gotten it because it did come with a set of 4 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle bowls. Now I loved these bowls as a kid. I would hold the head as a handle and eat my cereal out of, and how cool was it? You could wake up each morning and choose which turtle was it gonna be that you were gonna eat your breakfast out of. I hope I find these one day that are not super expensive. You know, if they're cheap enough, I'll pick them up. If they're new, I don't know if I wanna pick up someone's used bowl, but definitely iconic. Summer's rolling around, the ice cream man's coming by. Of course, you gotta get your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle ice cream. At the time, I think it was made by Merit Foods and then later Blue Bunny, but it has to be iconic. They made so many other characters other than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but it was that classic kind of fruity tasting ice cream with the gumballs. It must be iconic because they made a vinyl figure of it. I don't even know why I have this, but it's just super fun. My mom loved baking us birthday cakes and can't talk about iconic TMNT food products without talking about the cake pan. We had many birthdays where we asked for the Ninja Turtle cake, and I'd lie if I said, at least in my 30s, my mom still has made me this cake multiple times. I will ask for that birthday cake as long as I have the opportunity to, so definitely got to be on the list. Now, Ninja Turtles and sports kind of went together all the time. They made sports action figures, but there was also a lot of memorabilia to go with active lifestyles. One of the things I remember most was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle bike helmet. It was green, it had the bandana on it, and what's really cool is that they remade this for a different iteration of Turtles. You can even see it, there was a version of it for the 2012 Turtles, so nice to see this come back into popularity. And while we're talking about bikes, who remembers the Burger King bicycle toys? They were awesome. There was a horn that went on your handlebars, there was a pouch, a water bottle, and it came with some pretty cool tire spokes. As an adult, I don't know why I have these. These are just my favorite part of that bike set, but I have great memories putting these on my bike and riding around town like I was the coolest guy there. Maybe it's a rainy day and you want to play some basketball, but you can't go outside. Who remembers the Milton Bradley Waterfalls basketball game? It was pretty cool. You got to hit the buttons and push the basketball into one of the hoops. Nothing was more satisfying than when you actually got the ball inside the hoop. Such a cool indoor toy. As a kid, no one liked doing laundry, but one of the funnest ways to do laundry was to throw your clothes into the Ninja Turtles basketball hoop laundry net. No, I've looked everywhere. I can't even find anyone on eBay selling this thing brand new. Just a few photos online. So you might not remember this, but this hung on the back of our closet door and was probably the easiest way to get kids to put their laundry in the basket. Table hockey was always fun for indoor sports, and Remco in 1990 made the subterranean sewer hockey. This thing was super cool. I think to find one of these with all of the pieces is probably a hefty price, but it was always a fun toy. And in 1991, Remco followed up their hockey set with a bowling alley, the Cowabunga Sewer Pop and Pin bowling alley set. This thing was awesome. All the characters were the pins, and you had this pizza disc with some rolling balls at the bottom. You rolled it down the alleyway, and it popped all the pins up. So never had this as a kid. My brother found a used one online and sent it to me now, so it's sitting in my garage. I need to find something to do with it, but at least it has all the characters and some of the pizzas, so really awesome. Nerf was huge back in the day. It still is pretty big, but there was the Sewer Sports football shaped like the Turtles. They were pretty awesome. I had not the football shaped one, just the regular ball shaped one, and it was such an iconic toy, so that has to go on the list, of course. Let's talk some high fashion, some clothing items, and for this one, I'm going with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle slippers. Do you remember these? They had the turtle's head on the front. They went on top of your foot. I used to love these things. I know they made other different kinds of characters, but having the turtles on there was just super fun. And another piece of footwear that I remember were the sneaker snappers. Of course, you could have had Velcro shoes, but in case you weren't great at tying your shoes, you can put one of these clips on your shoelaces to make sure that they stayed tied. And you had all four brothers, so you can choose which one you want to accessorize with. Super awesome. Move over to toys, not action figures or activity things. And one of the greatest action figure accessories, I'll say, was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action figure case. I remember everyone had this. You were able to put your figures inside, but I loved it for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And they made a few, but there's really only this design that I think is the most iconic. Then there was the coloring books, which had such cool artwork on the front. It wasn't inspired by the cartoon. It wasn't really inspired by the comic. It was somewhere in the middle, but I remember we would get these all the time, color them, finish them, throw them away, and then my mom would find new versions of them. So those were just a lot of fun. Of course, I remember the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle plush. One of my favorite things to do was to recreate the scene from Secret of the Ooze where Donnie gets spun around in a circle and thrown into the shed. That was just super awesome. I used to do that with my Donatello plush all the time, grab him by his shell, spin in a circle, and toss him across the room. Moving over to a roleplay item was the Sewer Force sword. And they did make swords or weapons that look like they actually did for the characters, but the Sewer Force sword stood out because the actual handle had Leonardo's face at the bottom of it, and the blade was a long snake or lizard. It was just really weird, but I just remember thinking it was still fun, and even though it wasn't what you saw on the screen, it was just a cool imaginative toy. And some of the most famous iconography from TMNT in the 90s was, of course, some of the VHS tapes. So you had the video cassettes from the 3 live action movies. Those covers are instilled in my brain, but even more so were the FHE, the Family Home Entertainment animated tapes. And those things were super awesome. They were different colors, and it had the Burger King Kids Club logo on it. Do you remember the Burger King Kids Club where you were able to get a free meal for your birthday? And I definitely remember getting those videotapes from Burger King. Let's bring it back to some of the original TMNT video games. The first one that probably comes to mind for old collectors is the NES game. We all remember swimming through that pink seaweed and getting electrocuted. I never made it past that level. My brother did, but I don't think he made it far after. But other than that incredibly difficult game, there were some more fun games like Super Nintendo's Turtles in Time, Tournament Fighters, and we all remember the arcade game. Really cool that Arcade or 1UP Arcade makes one that you can keep in your home now. I have one. It's actually at my mom's house. Some other notable video games. One is the Konami handheld game, and this was like a button masher similar to the other Tiger games that kind of stunk, but this one had a distinct shape and it was Turtles, so it definitely stood out and I remember it fondly. But another video game was the Turtle Dashboard, and this puts you right behind the wheel of the party wagon. You can kind of just sit it on the floor and make believe that you were driving it, and it had the wheel and the gear shift, and it was just super awesome. I think they made a Batmobile version of this, but the turtle one will always be my favorite. Then moving over to some holiday decorations. Can't talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle products without talking about the onslaught of Christmas decorations that we got. A multiple variety of stockings. We had the ones with the actual illustrations on the front, but then they did make the stockings with the turtle's head on top. There was this old school ornament balls that had different scenes on them. Those are pretty cool. I have some of them, but they're starting to kind of peel a little bit. And the wood cutout ornaments, which I felt like were pretty popular throughout the early to mid 90s. Can't talk about holiday decorations and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles without mentioning these snow globes. I have all 4 of these. These are my original ones from when I was a kid. I have no idea how we're keeping it in such good condition with the water inside still. After 30 years, it has receded a little bit, but to have these in my collection still, I think these are probably one of the most iconic TMNT products outside of Christmas decorations, just all together. But it is February when we're filming this, so I have to, of course, talk about the Valentine's Day cards. Did anyone meet the love of their life handing them one of these cherished Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Valentine's Day cards in school? Probably not, but I do remember writing them all out for every classmate, as I was told to do by my mom, and then giving them out. And looking back on it now, there were so many cool designs. They're really not expensive to pick up on eBay, so maybe I'll pick up a set and just admire the artwork, but they were always super awesome. You're staying at a slumber party, you walk into someone's room, and they have the Ninja Turtle nightlight just plugged into the outlet. When the lights were on, it just looked like a blow mold of a turtle, but when the lights were off, it glowed from the inside. Always remember seeing those at friends' houses. And one item that I truly loved, and that was the TMNT Slumber Tent. This thing was awesome, and it was easy enough for a kid to put together, but I just remember the artwork on it being so cool with the turtles fighting Bebop. It was just a super awesome canvas piece. You got to go inside and play with your toys on the inside of the tent. And for the last item on this really long list of non-action figure TMNT products has to go towards the bed sheets. I obviously love this design. This is from a company called Roosevelt's, and they must have thought this design was awesome too, but it made going to bed fun. I love these bed sheets. I've bought many sets of these along the years just so I can have a stockpile. They're my curtains in my toy room. I still have the giant size pillow, and I just remember them fondly. So for that, they're going to be number 1 on this list of non-action figure TMNT products. All right, folks, that does it with this list. It kind of felt like speed dating, but we got through a lot of different products, give or take 35 different non-action figure TMNT products. I know I left a lot out. That's just because I didn't want to keep you here all day. We could probably do a part 2 and part 3. I know some items like the TMNT cookie jar or the toothbrush holder were on the list that got cut, but let me know which ones you would have liked to see on the list. Hope you enjoyed this one, folks, and until the next episode, we'll catch you next time.